All right, hey guys. So I was super excited to make this episode. Truth be told, I was just super excited to get to the bottom of this whole thing myself. Anyways, as you might remember, last year I made a video right after I finished my headers getting a after dyno tune done. Now that dyno tune, the numbers were completely weird. There was something definitely off about the numbers on that. As you remember, when I first went to the dyno, and I went to the same dyno twice, first went to the dyno stock, I got 375-ish around there for a stock car. I think maybe 372 I think was my number. And then I went back after I'd put the headers on and after I had gone to the track. Now at the track I dropped half a second and I've somehow put down like 335, 334 rear horsepower. So according to that dyno, it had dropped like 40 horsepower. For some reason, it makes absolutely zero sense. Like none of those numbers added up to what I was seeing at the track or what I felt in the car, because the car just all of a sudden felt like a beast as soon as I put on those headers. So I was extremely confused at what was going on. The other thing that was a little bit strange is we looked at the torque curve on the dyno graph and we noticed like a couple of weird dips and flat spots that we kind of assumed were probably happening when the car was pulling timing. So we figured there was probably something a little bit strange with the tune as well. So I searched around and asked our local Mopar, Edmonton Mopar Club, who they would recommend to tune Hemis. And they came back with a young fella named Chris at Player 3 Performance Tuning. Now Chris is a super awesome dude. Immediately as soon as I started talking to Chris, I knew that not only he knew what was going on and he knew what he was doing, but he was just a great all-around guy and was going to be super good to work with on this. First thing we did was I went over to Chris's place. We sat and talked a little bit. I told him about the car. I told him that the tune was originally done by Hemi Fever via mail and data logging. And then we quickly set it back to the stock tune. And then he retuned the car, took it for a couple drives with me, and made a couple adjustments there on the spot until we were pretty happy with what we had. Now, the car felt like it was running unbelievable. It felt like it was running great. But because before it felt like it was running pretty good too, I was a little bit hesitant and really wanted to take it back to the dyno to get some actual numbers on exactly what was going on so we could really tweak it, or we could really see what that curve was doing, what the air-fuel ratio was, and really optimize this tune to make sure that we were getting the most power out of these headers that we could. So when I got back in town, I headed out to meet Chris at his friend's shop, which was Silver Maple Numerics. They're out just a little outside Edmonton, just by Spruce Grove. And the numbers that we ended up putting down, I am super, super happy with. So after a little bit of tweaking and a few more runs later, with more and more power being added, we finally topped out with our best run of 374 horsepower to the rear wheels and 409 pound-feet of torque. These numbers were excellent. Now, for only having headers and a tune to be able to put what my engine is rated at the flywheel down to the rear wheels is excellent. So that kind of number would, if you figure like about a 15% drivetrain loss, and I know guys absolutely hate when you use percentages to figure out what your drivetrain loss is, because their argument is, well, higher horsepower application doesn't take more horsepower to run the same transmission, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But even if you just figure out roughly 15%, it works out to about 430 horsepower at the flywheel right now with only headers and a tune, which is excellent for this car. If this car came factory, if you were at the dealership and you were ordering your Challenger and you had a choice between a Scat Pack, which is the 485, and just a regular RT, which is 430, but there's 10 grand difference, you'd probably way more likely to spring for an RT that's 430 horsepower than 375 horsepower. For sure you would. You can look at a factory 6.1 liter, which was in the SRTs of the day. The 6.1 liter Hemi was putting down, guys were putting down about 375 horsepower to the rear wheels, and those are rated at 425 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque. So that does give you the idea that with a 375 horsepower to the wheels and 410 pound-feet of torque to the rear wheels, we're really pretty much in 6.1 liter Hemi territory. The other thing I wanted to add was after Chris had tweaked the tune, taking it out for the first couple drives, the car absolutely slams when you step on it down low. He mentioned that he had adjusted the pedal sensitivity just a little bit because it felt a little mushy and sluggish down low when we were starting out, like in the lower RPM range, and he wasn't kidding. The car is so much fun to drive right now. It absolutely launches you after that new tune. It is super impressive. From the very first tune that Chris gave me to the final results after he tweaked it on the dyno tune, we picked up an extra 10 horsepower, an extra 10 or 12 or so pound-feet of torque just by tweaking it out after seeing what everything was reading on the dyno. So virtually by doing nothing and just adjusting the tune, which was already really good, we picked up another 10 horsepower. So I'm really, really excited to take my car back out to the track, which unfortunately is going to be another 2 weeks away, but I'm definitely got it circled and marked on my calendar because I'm extremely excited and see what kind of gains and what kind of drops in my ET I can get from not only the excellent tune that I've got now that we know is running super, super well, but the drag radials, the Nitto Tri-5Rs that we've got on there as well, which are letting us get all that power to the ground and drop those 60-foot times. So we see the absolute most for the power that we're making as far as what kind of ET that we can get at the quarter mile. Anyways, guys, that's it for now. So now everybody's up to date on what I've done to the car so far this season. And stay tuned because in the next couple of weeks we're going to take it down to the track and see if we can dip into the 12s with the setup we've got here at 2,300 feet above sea level. I'm going to really try to hit 12s at 2,300 feet above sea level, which would be unbelievable, but we'll see what happens. That's kind of what I'm shooting for. We'll see. Even low 13s at this elevation is absolutely killer. My previous best, if you remember, was 13.5, so we'll see what I can do with the new tires and a new tune. Anyways, guys, stay tuned. Click the like button and click the subscribe button so you guys are notified that next time we update you with some new numbers at the track. Anyways, take care, guys.